All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on 5.8. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw an area model to represent 2/3 and write 2/3 underneath as the beginning of a number sentence. Pause while you do this. You should have something like this. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to draw three horizontal lines across the area model. Horizontal. Go ahead and pause while you do that. Now that you've done that, you should look something like this. You have 3 horizontal lines, and you still have your 2/3. Now, what happened to my pieces? I had 2 giant pieces here. What happened to them? Well, hopefully you said they got smaller. So the fractional pieces that I had got smaller. How much smaller? Well, seeing as I put 3 horizontal lines, they didn't get 3 times smaller. They got 1, 2, 3, 4 times smaller because we divided each unit into 4 groups. Pardon me. We divided the units into 4 groups. So what I'd like us to do is I would like us to use our number sentence to help us figure this out. So I went from 2 pieces and I made them 4 times smaller. Go ahead and write that. But the rule is what you do to the top, you must also do to the bottom. So I was in thirds, but I also made that 4 times smaller. Go ahead and solve what each of those would equal. Go ahead and pause while you do that. So you should have come up with 8/12. Uh-oh. I went from 2 out of 3 pieces to 8 out of 12 pieces. I know they are equivalent because I drew an area model to represent. So I know that they're the same. I know they represent the same amount. I also know because I didn't color any more in, I didn't draw any more boxes, so they have to be the same. I want you to now draw an area model to represent 5/6. And go ahead and do the same thing we did here by setting up our number sentence by writing 5/6 below your new area model. So please make an area model that says 5/6. This is what you should have come up with. This time I want you to make it equivalent to something that has a denominator of 12. So this needs to be cut so I have 12 pieces, not 6. I'm doubling the number of pieces I have. Once you cut this so it has 12 pieces, figure out what goes here in the middle. I'll show you and I'll do it with you, but I want you to pause and see if you can figure out how to cut this so there are 12 pieces and do some multiplication to figure out what goes next. Follow our format here. Go ahead and pause while you do that. So to make this into 12 pieces, I just cut it in half because I know I was doubling my size. So I put it times 2. So I have 2 full groups. Now I had 6 pieces. I now have 12. I had 5 colored in, and now I have 10. But how did I get there? Well, how do I get from 5 to 10? I should have said 5 times 2. How do I get from 6 to 12? 6 times 2. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. All right, I would just like you to look at this. You don't have to write it. I just want you to look at it. If my whole is the same, say I had 2 area models, they were the same size. If the whole is the same, are these 2 truly equivalent? Is this a true statement or is it a false statement? Think about that for just a second. If you need to draw it, go ahead, or you can just explain in your head why you think it's the same or do some multiplication to show me. All right, I'm going to have you pause while you think about it and draw or do what you need to do to prove these two are equal. Go ahead and try and prove it. Pause. So I have just proven that 3 times 2 is 6 and 4 times 2 is 6. I would have cut my piece in half just like I did with this one. So they are indeed true. Let's go ahead and try a different one. This one I want you to write down. Is 3/4 equivalent to 6/12? I want you to solve it either using multiplication or area models to prove it's true or false. Go ahead and pause. All right, if you look at my area models, I have the same shape, same size, and here I have 3 long columns filled in. Here I technically only have 2 long columns filled in. That does not look equal. If I look at my multiplication, I had to multiply my 3 times 2 in order to get 6. But my 4 times 3, are we allowed to do that? No way, that is false. Because what you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. You have to multiply by the same like we did up above. Can you fix it? Can you make 3/4 equivalent to something else? If you need to pair up with someone, go ahead. But you need to make 3/4 equivalent to something else. What could it possibly be equivalent to? It must be something that is broken into smaller pieces. Good luck. Hopefully you got something similar to myself or maybe something even different. I colored in 9 of my 12 pieces, and that looks like I have 3 columns compared to my 3 columns. I also double checked with multiplication. 3 times 3 gives me 9, 4 times 3 gives me 12. These are the same. What you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. Hopefully yours worked out too. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to actually use multiplication to represent what you see here. Remember, the dotted line is what happened after, so you have to remember what was my original fraction. My original fraction was this whole piece and this whole piece out of 3. So my fraction would be 2/3, correct. But what did I end up with as a fraction? Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After I cut it to try to make equivalent fractions, I ended up with 4/6. Now you have to work through with your multiplication to prove that's correct. Remember, what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. See if you can figure out what number sentences will go on top and the bottom to make this correct. Go ahead and pause. You should have gotten this. I had 2 pieces originally. My whole was cut into 2 sections, top and bottom, so I had to multiply it by 2. I had 3 pieces originally, but then once my piece was cut in half, I now have 6 total pieces. So I had to cut it in 2. 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6. Go ahead and find that partner for a problem set and do as much as possible and move right on to homework when you are done.